Okay, so I want you to picture this in your head for a second.
All right, let's hear it.
You are, you're 5 years old.
Just 5.
Right, 5 years old.
Right.
And you're sitting on this, like, dusty floor. And right in front of you is a little piece of cardboard. And on that cardboard, there are 231 letters.
That is a lot of letters.
It's a ton. And these are letters from a language that nobody around you even speaks in daily life, but you have to study it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you can't even write yet. You haven't learned how to hold a pen, but you are expected to memorize every single letter, every single sound perfectly by heart.
No pressure, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you mess up or if you fail, you get sent back to do like grueling farm labor with your parents.
It sounds like some kind of intense dystopian movie plot.
I know, right? But it's not.
Yep.
It is actually a very real historical reality for hundreds of thousands of children. We are talking about the Ethiopian Orthodox Church school system.
One of the absolute oldest educational systems in all of Christendom.
Yes. And that is exactly our mission for this Deep Docs today. We have got this fascinating stack of sources from scholars, Haile Jabriel Don, Professor Sergi Haile Selassie, and Professor Qedasse Bet.
Incredible sources, really.
Yeah, they go into massive detail about the history, the pedagogy, just the whole structure of these traditional schools.
And you know what's so wild about this is the contrast with our lives today. Like you and I and everyone listening, we live in this world of total information overload.
Oh, for sure. Google is just a tap away.
Exactly. We outsource our memory to our phones. But this system, this 1,500-year-old system, it's the exact opposite. It's about the profound, meticulous internalizing of knowledge.
Which is just, it's mind-blowing when you really stop to think about it. I mean, we're tracing this back to the 4th century Aksumite Kingdom.
The 4th century?
Yeah, like the Roman Empire was still a thing when this system was putting its roots down. It was an unbroken chain.
It really is. And for over a millennium and a half, especially up in the Christian highlands of Ethiopia, the church was the sole guardian of traditional culture.
The only schools around.
Literally the only provider of education for centuries. Our sources talk about how this system hit its golden age of literature between the 13th and 16th centuries.
So that was when they were really creating new stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Creating, translating, innovating. But then after the 17th century, things took a pretty dark turn.
Because of the wars.
Right. Huge cultural activities just declined because of intense regional conflicts and political instability. And when a society is at war, you know, survival becomes the only priority.
You're not exactly writing new poetry when your village is under attack.
Exactly. So the schools had to shift their entire focus. It went from creating new glories to just frantically preserving the old ones. They had to guard the culture.
Which brings up this concept in the sources that I found super interesting, tradition as authority.
Yes. Tradition as authority. It basically means the past becomes the ultimate law. You preserve it tenaciously because that is literally your cultural survival mechanism.
Man, if you just think about that timeline for a second, it's like if the schools we go to today were teaching the exact same curriculum in the exact same way as they did during the Renaissance.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Just to make sure the knowledge didn't disappear. It's like an unbroken chain of human hard drives.
That is a perfect way to put it, human hard drives. But to really understand how they format those hard drives, how this massive undertaking actually works, we have to start where every single child starts.
At the grassroots level.
Right at the bottom of the pyramid. The Nebab Bet.
The house of reading.
Exactly, the house of reading. And the scale of this is just, it's staggering. Based on the historical estimates in our sources, there were about 15,000 churches in Ethiopia.
15,000?
Yeah, and practically every church had one of these, so that's 15,000 one-teacher schools.
That's insane.
And if you estimate the enrollment, you're looking at around 300,000 students in the system.
300,000 kids, starting between the ages of 5 and 7.
Right.
But, and the sources point this out, the demographics are pretty specific, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, theoretically, the doors were open to everyone, but the reality on the ground was different. Rural girls, for instance, were largely excluded.
Because of the societal expectations at the time.
Right. They were destined for uneducated housewife roles, sadly. So parents wouldn't spare them from household chores for this grueling education.
And non-Christians obviously weren't eager to send their kids to an Orthodox church school either.
Right. So you end up with a student body that is predominantly young Christian boys. But here is a fascinating twist that the scholars highlight about how things shifted in the modern era.
Oh, about the writing versus reading thing.
Yeah, so historically, they didn't teach writing in the Nebab Bet.
Which sounds crazy for a school, right?
It does, but you have to think about the context. These were agricultural societies. You didn't need to write to plow a field or herd cattle.
Right, but you did need to read to recite the daily prayers.
Exactly. But fast forward to the modern era, where secular, Western-style government schools start popping up, the Nebab Bet adapted in this really pragmatic way.
Wait, yeah, I wanted to ask about this. So it's a religious school, obviously.
Yeah.
But modern parents are currently using it as this strategic stepping stone just to get their kids into secular schools.
Yes. Because spots in the modern government schools are scarce. So if a kid comes in already knowing how to read, already disciplined by the church school, they have a massive head start.
That is so practical.
It really is.
Yeah.
Parents are like, well, we want them to get a modern job, so let's use this 1,500-year-old religious institution as a kindergarten.
Wow. Okay, so let's get into the actual mechanics of how they learn in this kindergarten, because it sounds brutal.
Oh, it is. The mechanics of mastery. Let's talk about those 231 letters you mentioned at the start.
The Giz syllabary.
Right. So Qedasse has 33 base characters. In each of those has 7 different orders or vowel sounds attached to them.
And just to remind you guys listening, Giz is a dead language. Nobody speaks it at home.
It's the liturgical language of the church, like Latin for the Catholic Church. And traditionally, the kids would learn these letters by reading from a rolled-up parchment on a stick.
Which was probably super expensive to replace if a 5-year-old ripped it.
Oh, incredibly expensive. But today, they use this printed table of letters glued to a piece of cardboard that parents buy for like 10 cents at the local market.
10-cent cardboard.
Yeah. But the curriculum is just as rigorous. To get to the point where they can actually read a text, specifically the Fidel Hawaria, which is the first epistle of St. John, they have to pass through 4 distinct stages.
Oh, you lay these stages on me.
Stage 1 is called Quatir. It basically means counting or pointing.
Pointing at the letters.
Yeah. The child uses a little straw to point at each letter, reading from left to right. But the teacher doesn't just let them memorize the visual pattern.
Oh, right. They mix it up.
Exactly. The teacher forces them to read in scrambled standard tables like A, boo, G, dat.
Wait, so it's like learning the English alphabet, right?
Yeah.
You've got 231 letters. You're 5 years old.
Yeah.
And the teacher scrambles the flashcard, so you can't just rely on the ABC song.
Exactly.
You have to actually know them cold. You can't just memorize the melody of the alphabet.
Which is brilliant pedagogy, honestly. It prevents pure rote memorization of a sequence. You have to recognize the character independently.
That's a huge cognitive load for a kid.
Huge. But once they master Quatir, they move to stage 2. This is where they start chanting the letters together to form actual words.
Okay, so sounding things out.
Right. Then comes stage 3, which is where things get really intense. Nebab.
Nebab. What does that entail?
It means carefully reading the text with all the proper accents, the pauses, and knowing when to use a soft or hard pronunciation.
So it's not just getting the word right, it's the rhythm and the strict rules of how it sounds.
Exactly. If you mispronounce a Giz word by putting the accent on the wrong syllable, it could mean something entirely different.
Oh, wow.
And finally, stage 4 is Nebab. This is the ultimate test. They have to read at a very lively, fast pace without making a single mistake.
So flawless speed reading in a language you don't even understand.
That's it. That's the Nebab Bet. But that's just the day shift.
Wait, there's more.
Oh, yeah. We have to talk about the Yamana Timhert, or the evening lessons.
Right, the memorization part. Yequel Timhert.
Yeah. After a whole day of staring at that cardboard, the students gather around their teacher every single evening. And they do this for months, sometimes years.
Just standing in a circle.
Standing around the teacher. The teacher recites standard prayers, sentence by sentence, and the students repeat them back over and over.
Until it's perfectly memorized.
Yes. Vast amounts of audio just burned into their brains.
You know, it really makes you wonder what that does to a young brain. To memorize so much incomprehensible audio.
Well, it builds an incredible capacity for focus and retention, but there is one interesting exception to the incomprehensible part.
Oh, the Amade Mystere.
Yes, the Columnae Mystere. It's this specific text on the Trinity and the core dogmas of the faith.
And they teach that one in Amharic.
Right.
Not Guess.
Exactly. It's sometimes taught in Amharic.
Which is this spoken language.
Right. And you have to wonder why they make that exception. It's because while the rituals and prayers are sacred in Qedasse, the church needs the students to actually understand the core theology of the Trinity.
Oh, I see. So the prayers can be mysterious and sacred, but you better actually know what you believe.
Precisely. It's very pragmatic.
Man, the discipline is just wild.
Yeah.
So what is the finish line for these kids? When do they get to graduate from this house of reading?
The final hurdle is reading the Psalms of David.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Using Nebab and Nebab, the careful reading and the fast-paced reading.
That is a massive book.
It is. But when they finally do it, it is a huge deal. The graduation is this joyful family feast.
I bet. The kids survived.
They survived. And more importantly, they are now a village elite. This graduate is the one who can read and write letters for the community. They can recite prayers at gatherings. It elevates their whole social status.
That's amazing. But from what the sources say, once they graduate the Nebab Bet, they kind of reach a crossroads, don't they?
They do. They have to make a choice.
Like, do they want a practical job or do they want to become a true hardcore scholar? Let's look at the practical route first.
Okay, the practical route, that would be the Qedasse Bet.
The school of the altar priests.
Right. This school trains what they call the Simonenia. These are the priests who serve weekly at the altar.
Okay, so they're the ones actually running the Sunday service. What are they learning?
The curriculum is surprisingly narrow. They learn Qedasse and Qedasse.
Maybe it means.
It translates to the functions of a deacon and the functions of a priest in the liturgy. So they focus solely on the hymns, the rituals for the Mass, and the sacraments.
Wait, just the rituals?
Just the rituals, the physical actions and the specific chants. They don't study deep theology here.
But wait, how do they learn how to actually be a priest in the community? Like the day-to-day stuff?
Through apprenticeship. They literally just follow an older priest or a monk around the parish and learn by doing.
Wow. Okay, but I have a question about this. Why do people choose this route if it's so narrow? Is it just a religious calling?
Not always. There's a massive socioeconomic driver here. The sources explain that the children of clergy go to this school specifically to keep their semen land in the family.
Semen land, that's land granted by the church, right?
Exactly. It's tax-free land given in exchange for serving the church. If no one in your family becomes a priest, you lose the land.
Oh, wow. So you go to preschool to save the family farm.
Essentially, yes. And for landless peasants, it's a way to gain land and village privileges. It's a highly practical career move.
But wait, this brings up something that kind of blew my mind in the sources.
What?
So the people actually running the Sunday service, the ones at the altar, they might not fully understand the deep theology of the scriptures they're reading.
That is correct. And I know that sounds strange to modern ears, but it's actually a beautifully pragmatic division of labor within the church.
The division of labor.
Yeah. The altar priests are not the deep scholars. Scanty training suffices for them because their role is purely ritualistic. Their job is to ensure the Mass happens correctly every single week.
Right. They are the practitioners.
Exactly. They keep the engine running, the deep theological thinking, the scholarship that is left to an entirely different class of people.
Right. Which brings us to the other path at the crossroads. The hardcore scholars, the Detera.
Yes, the Detera. To become one, a student has to join the higher schools.
And a Detera is, well, the sources say they are the leading teachers, scholars, artists, and administrators, right?
Yes. And usually, they are laymen. They aren't ordained priests.
That's so interesting. The smartest guys in the room aren't even the priests.
No, they are the intellectuals of the church. But the lifestyle to become a Detera, it is not for the faint of heart.
Oh yeah, the wandering students.
Yes. These kids leave their parents, they leave their home villages, and they become wandering students, traveling from parish to parish, looking for the best master teachers.
It sounds incredibly romantic, like something out of a fantasy novel. But why wander? Why not just stay home and learn?
Well, there's the romanticized aspect, sure, the adventurous tales of the begging student traveling the country, that definitely drew some kids in. But the main reason is far more practical.
Escaping chores.
Exactly. Escaping the heavy demands of farm labor. If a boy stays in his village, his parents are going to make him cultivate the land and watch the cattle.
Right, they need the free labor.
And you can't study ancient philosophy when you're plowing a field for 12 hours a day, so they leave. They become beggars, essentially, relying on the charity of villagers to eat while they study under a master.
It's like the ultimate form of upward mobility for a farm boy back then.
It was. It was a way to escape a life of manual labor through sheer intellectual rigor.
Though, sadly, the sources point out that this is kind of dying out, right?
Yeah, it is the modern decline. Graduates of these traditional church schools have really lost their elite status to people with modern Western-type education.
Right. A degree from a modern university holds more weight now.
Unfortunately, yes, in terms of societal prestige and government jobs.
But let's say a wandering student is fully committed. They decide they want to pursue the arts. Where do they go first?
They enter the Zema Bet.
The School of Music.
Exactly. And this is where the ultimate test of memory begins.
Okay, so paint a picture of this for me. What does a music class look like in this system?
Well, the pedagogy is pretty unique. The teacher sits right in the middle of the room or under a tree.
Okay.
And the students are all around him practicing their daily hymn assignments, sometimes in groups, sometimes individually.
All at the same time.
All at the same time. Advanced students act as monitors to help the beginners.
So wait. It sounds like a chaotic, one-room schoolhouse.
It is very noisy.
But instead of everyone doing, like, math worksheets quietly, they're all humming and singing different ancient melodies at the same time until they get it perfect.
That's exactly what it is, a cacophony of different hymns, and they have to practice until it is flawless.
Because everything is learned entirely by heart.
Entirely. No sheet music. To move on to a new assignment, a student must perform the hymn perfectly before the teacher. One mistake, and you go back to practicing.
That sounds highly monotonous, just singing the same lines over and over in a chaotic room.
It is incredibly monotonous. But here is the fascinating part that the scholars note. The students maintain surprisingly high morale.
How? I would lose my mind.
The sources attribute it to three things. First, the expectation of a high church position when they finish.
Okay, so career motivation.
Right. Second, the deep belief that the instruction itself is sacred. They are learning the songs of angels.
Wow.
And third, their willing submission to the teacher's authority. They revere their master.
That level of dedication is just, it's hard to wrap your head around today. But if they master the music, if they survive the Zema Bet, then they move to the intellectual peak, right?
Yes. The Qene Bet, the poetry school.
Okay, I have been so excited to talk about this part because this is where the students finally start to actually understand the Ge'ez language they've been memorizing since they were 5, right?
Exactly. Up until now, it's been mostly passive memorization of sounds. But in the Qene Bet, they learn the grammar, the vocabulary, and they finally understand what the words mean.
The lights turn on.
The lights turn on. And they use this new understanding to compose poetry. But not just any poetry. We have to talk about the wax and gold system.
Cemento work. This is such a cool concept. Can you explain how it works?
So wax and gold is a literary device. It means every poem has 2 layers of meaning.
Okay.
The wax is the obvious surface level meaning. Anyone listening can understand it. But the gold is the hidden, deeper, often subversive meaning concealed within the words.
Oh, I love that. Like a built-in secret code?
Precisely. Just like a goldsmith uses a wax mold to cast a gold object, the poet uses the obvious meaning to deliver the hidden truth.
So they aren't just writing poetry. They're writing structurally rigid poetry in a dead language and composing an original melody for it, all while hiding a secret message.
Yes, and there are strict rules. There are 9 models of this wax and gold system.
9 models. Give me a sense of what those are.
They range in complexity. It starts with Gube Kana, which is just 2 verses.
That's so small.
Right. Then it scales up. You have Zamlaki with 3 verses, Kibrieti with 4, all the way up to Aitain Mogar, which can be 7 or 11 verses long.
An 11-verse poem with a hidden meaning in a dead language.
And you have to remember, regional variations exist too. Like the Ganji and Washera schools in Gojam, they have their own stylistic flavors.
That is just wild to me. How do they even practice this? What does a day in the life of a poetry student look like?
It is a rigorous schedule. In the afternoon, they have the Gube, or session, in a communal hut called the Nebab Bet.
Okay, so they all gather together.
Right. They do prayers, they study verb conjugations, and the teacher tells them the story of a saint.
To give them inspiration for the poem.
Exactly. Then in the evening, the student walks around trying to find the musical rhythm for their poem.
Just pacing around humming to themselves?
Pretty much. Then the next day is the real work. They go into seclusion, they sit alone and meditate to compose the poem.
In their head. Because they don't have paper.
All in their head. They construct the wax, they hide the gold, they fit it to the rhythm, all mentally. Then in the afternoon, they come back and recite it to the teacher for critique.
I can't even compose a text message in my head without losing my train of thought.
And after the teacher critiques it, there's a lively debate among the students. They analyze each other's wax and gold, trying to find the hidden meanings and critiquing the grammar.
This sounds like it completely shifts the educational model. Like it shifts from this passive, beat it into your head memorization to active intellectual creation.
It absolutely does. It awakens their aesthetic interest. It severely challenges the intellect. Now, it is still within the boundaries of accepted religious values.
Yeah.
You can't compose a poem about secular romance, for instance.
Right, it's still a church school.
But within those boundaries, it is a masterclass in critical thinking and creativity.
Incredible. And yet, this isn't even the final level.
No, it's not. The final frontier of scholarship is the Metsehaf Bet.
The school of commentary.
Yes, this is where you become a true master of the text. It's composed of 4 pillars.
Break those down for us.
First is the Belui, which is the commentary on the 46 books of the Old Testament.
Okay, Old Testament.
Second is the Hadith, covering the 35 books of the New Testament.
Got it.
Third is Liqawent. This is huge. It covers the church fathers like Chrysostom and Quarlos, the canon law known as the Faith Negist, and Baro Hasab, which is the complex calendar calculation.
Calendar calculation, like astronomical stuff.
Exactly. Figuring out the dates for fasting and Easter based on ancient astronomical texts. And finally, the 4th pillar is Menekosat, which is monastic literature.
That is a staggering amount of material. How do they even tackle it? Do they just read the commentaries?
Remember, reading isn't enough. The pedagogy here is intense. Groups of 3 or 4 students will read a single sentence in Ge'ez.
Just one sentence?
Just one.
Mm-hmm.
Then the teacher translates it into Amharic and gives the traditional commentary on what that sentence means.
Okay, that sounds like a normal theology class.
But here is the catch. The students then have to memorize that commentary word for word.
Word for word, not just the gist of it.
Every single word.
But why? Why not just take notes and understand the concept?
2 reasons. First, the practical one. Writing materials, like parchments, were incredibly expensive.
Right, we talked about that. You'd need a whole flock of sheep to make one book.
Exactly. There were no cheap notebooks. The writings were precious. So when you can't write it down, your brain must become the library.
Man, when you don't have a hard drive, you have to be the hard drive.
Precisely. And the second reason is theological. These writings and commentaries are considered divine revelations from the Holy Spirit.
Oh, I see.
The Church Fathers were inspired. So no critical opinion or paraphrasing is allowed. You can't just put it in your own words because your words aren't divine.
It's like playing an incredibly high-stakes game of telephone, except the goal is to make sure the message doesn't change a single syllable over 1,000 years.
That's a great analogy. And the result of this grueling process is a scholar whose mind is a mix of history, legendary tales, miracles, parables, and ancient mythical attitudes.
They're essentially walking encyclopedias of Ethiopian Christianity.
They really are. And graduates from the Metsehaf Bet gain massive prestige. They become the heads of major monasteries and large churches. They are the guardians of the culture.
It's just so fascinating to see how the lack of cheap paper fundamentally shaped their human cognition and their whole educational philosophy. But bringing this back to the modern day, how does this fit in now? Because obviously Ethiopia has modern universities now, they have the internet. Is this system just completely obsolete?
Not completely. The church is actually blending traditional learning with modern education. There are theological colleges now where students get the traditional foundations but also modern academic training.
Oh, that's cool. So they're adapting again.
Yeah. Many students even go abroad for advanced studies, which helps ensure the continuity of Ethiopia's Christian heritage in a dynamic, globalized era.
Which is a beautiful way to keep that unbroken chain going, just adding a modern link to it.
Exactly.
But, you know, it makes me think about us. To everyone listening right now, what can we, in a world of instant Google searches and AI, learn from a system that demands we carry our knowledge inside ourselves?
It is a profound question, because there is a difference between having access to information and actually internalizing knowledge.
Right. Like, I have access to Wikipedia, but I don't know Wikipedia.
Exactly. And the keen poets, the ones writing the wax and gold poetry, they could only do that because they had internalized the vocabulary, the grammar, and the history.
The building blocks were already in their heads.
Right. They didn't have to pause and look up a word. That internal reservoir of knowledge is what sparked their spontaneous creativity.
That is such a powerful thought. So we want to leave you, our listeners, with this final provocative thought to ponder.
Yeah, think about this.
When we outsource our memory to our phones, to our computers, to AI bots, what happens to our capacity for deep, internalized understanding?
Do we lose something essential?
Exactly. If the keen poets needed that vast vocabulary inside their heads to spark their imagination, does our modern reliance on external storage actually limit our imagination?
It's entirely possible that by freeing up our memory, we are actually restricting our ability to connect ideas in novel ways.
Because if the dots aren't inside your head, your brain can't connect them.
Precisely.
Definitely something to chew on the next time you reflexively reach for your phone to look something up.
Try committing it to your internal hard drive instead.
Love that. Well, that wraps up our journey into the Ethiopian Orthodox Church school system. It's been an incredible deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you on the next one.